Today we're going to talk about a late Neolithic, early Chalcolithic site, Chatal Huyuk. It is located on the Konya Plain in the plateau of Turkey. You can see it there on the map at about 3,000 feet altitude, which is to say this is high plains, almost like desert. They'll get snow in the wintertime, and so it's a great place for growing wheat, winter wheat, for example. And there were mounds here. We have to think, again, we have to take into context this sort of the settlement emerged and advised with Jericho as one of the earliest urban sites in human existence. And at the time that it came into being, it's right at the end of the Ice Age. So, hypothetically and based on geological exploration, it was surrounded by wetlands. So primarily, their lifestyle seems to have been based on hunting, but they did engage in agriculture as well, so herding and agriculture. And then finally, stoneworking and then metallurgy as well. But what seems to be the case is that it was a lush, wetland region until the desiccation reached a certain point where it dried up, and this culture just sort of moved on to other locations. Here it is in Google Earth, same sort of thing. About 50 miles south of Konya itself, a major visit. I should point out, well, let's go through the text. Chatal survives as a mound some 32 acres wide, situated on the flat plain of the Anatolian Plateau, about 30 kilometers south of modern-day Konya. At the end of the Ice Age, the Konya Plain exhibited extensive marshlands to sustain hunting and fishing. The 5 to 6,000 inhabitants also appear to have domesticated sheep, goats, and cows, and to have utilized simple irrigation techniques to grow domesticated varieties of wheat, barley, peas, lentils, and various fruit. The regularity of constructed houses made of mud brick and reinforced by timber frames suggests that Çatalhöyük, along with Jericho, was one of the first examples of urban living. These mud brick houses were arranged in an unbroken facade of adjoining structures without doors or windows. Many richly decorated rooms have been discovered at Çatalhöyük and are referred to as shrines, although their original function remains unclear. And then what was discovered, I can't quite read the rest of it, is all the walls were elaborately plastered. There were elaborate wall paintings. There were raised and lowered features. The buildings are rather simple, maybe just 2 rooms, but there would be little outbuildings you could connect to. And then the other thing is that it seems to be highly egalitarian. Many of the houses have these shrines we're about to look at. And when they started digging this back in 1958, they thought maybe they were digging in a priestly quarter, but then they dug on the other side of the mound and found similar structures. So it just seems to be a kind of amalgam of houses that people kind of exited through their roofs. They spent a lot of time in the roofs in good weather. And maybe the adjoining nature of it actually added to defense or something like that as well. So a lot of questions about the place remain. I should point out it's being excavated today by a team directed from Stanford University by the great archaeologist Ian Hodder. It's recognized as a UNESCO archaeological site. And one of the things that Professor Hodder has done is invite numerous teams to come and excavate different parts of the mound. So it is both one of the most international excavations on the planet, but also he makes a point of making it accessible to the public. He believes in committed to this engagement with the public so that people can appreciate what the archaeologists are doing. Here's a view of the mound, and you can see sort of permanent structures here. So they use this polyurethane roofs to protect, because what's exposed is mud brick, which can disintegrate rapidly in the elements. So they start frequently with tents and move ultimately to these permanent roof settings. Here's just an illustration of the houses and how adjoining they are. There don't seem to be any public places. There doesn't seem to be any hierarchy to discern, such as a royal family or something like that. There's no palace complex, at least none yet. And this is one of, I should point out, several mounds in the vicinity. There's another one with people are arguing even older than this one, but this is the one that has had pretty much long duration excavation in the 1960s and resumed in the 1990s, ongoing today. Just some images of the kinds of animals that could be domesticated at this time: cows, sheep, goats, and all of the remains of all these were found in the excavation. Here is a view of the layers of the excavation. They started, well, let me put it this way: there's a cemetery at the top, but they got down to layers. The upper layers date to about 8th millennium, 7200 BC, and the earliest layers get down to about 700 BC. Here is a glimpse of some of these rooms, and notice the animals, bucrania, we call these, so animal skull horns, arranged in a kind of a shrine. Numerous houses had these shrines, and so that's one of the big problems. Other features they determined is that, in many Neolithic cultures, they bury their dead under their hearth or in their family rooms so that they had the sanctity of their ancestors protecting them over time. And sometimes they would preserve their skulls, decorate them, and have them on the mantelpiece as well. So ancestor cult is profound in this region. Here's another one of these elaborate shrines. This one was restored at the Archaeological Museum of Anatolian Civilizations in Ankara. And let's take a glimpse at the excavation underway.
They're using many of the Neva's right.
Here are some of these rooms. You can see the white plaster on the walls, all very delicate. You can see these pits. Now, they could be storage pits, they could be fire pits, sort of ovens, or they could be interment pits as well. Some of the many interesting features is the repeated discovery of dozens of these female icons, presumed to be the mother goddess, or maybe the Kybele, the Anatolian mother goddess or earth goddess. She's always kind of portrayed as a pregnant woman with pent-in breast. And frequently, as this case, we have her seated with lions to either side. So this is an Anatolian sort of earth goddess, mother goddess, is what is presumed. And like I said, dozens of these have been found. And the shrines. Another problem with the shrines is, I wonder whether, because they seem to be in every house, I wonder if it isn't some sort of big game, sort of rite of passage where you have to go out as a young male and uh, slay an animal, and then you get to mount it. And maybe they sat around in smoking jackets with pipes and talked about being big game hunters. Here we have the projectile points, arrowheads used in their hunting. And some of the wall paintings, such as this, actually preserve hunting scenes. So we have a deer surrounded by bearded men hunting. Here's the segue to the illustration. We can see them wearing loincloths. So hunting still was a major component, but they supplemented it with herding and agriculture. So we're right at that borderline. And again, just another reconstruction of a view of one of these shrine-like rooms for whatever significance was. This is a particularly fascinating, this has been redone. It seems to show a settlement with houses, and in the background, perhaps a volcanic mountain. What we know is that there is a mountain about 150 kilometers away where obsidian is available. Obsidian is a very sharp, uh, volcanic stone that can be honed down to a razor's edge. It has surgical sharpness. It's still used today as a surgical implement. And so we know that they did a lot of stone knapping of obsidian there in Chatal, and that they traded it for materials coming from as far away as Syria and Egypt. And so Chatal, along with the island of Milos in Greece, is one of the major sources of obsidian in this Neolithic era. And what we know is that this material was being distributed in the eastern Mediterranean horizon. And so maybe that's a reason why Chatal came to be such a prosperous